Hello everyone, HDA here, and it's pretty much time to get back on the TOS build. So I'm going to set the camera down right here and go over what I'm doing. I want to get this done because I have a new base design that I want to show everybody. What I'm doing now is I'm going through on the engineering hull and I'm putting in the windows to get this section taken care of. In terms of putting together, this is the last section I need to do, so I'm going in and doing that. Now I'm doing something that's rather unorthodox. I'm using hot glue, low temp hot glue, to secure my windows. Normally I wouldn't do that, but these windows fit in so nicely, and I'm just going in and securing them with some hot glue. And I've done that on this side of the hull. And as you can see, what I do is I put a bead all the way around the piece, and I put some from the bead over on top of the plastic. And once that's done, this stuff sets up really quick because this is a very low temp hot glue. It sets, and these things are in like rock solid, and there's just no way these are going to pop out. And there, by doing that, I don't have to go in and scrape any paint off to get modeling glue to weld these pieces together, or use some other type of glue that takes a long time to set up. So I went ahead and put all these windows in on this section of the hull, and I got through this in just a couple minutes of getting all those in, and those look really nice. I'm happy with the way that looks, so that's going to turn out really good. And as you may remember, I pre-paint all my pieces, so the hull is pre-painted, and after I put this together, I'll only be dealing with painting and dealing with the seam work on the top and the bottom. So that's done. All the windows are in on that side, so now I'm putting them in on this side. So let me do a little bit of that, and we'll move on. Okay, that's all glued in. All those pieces are nicely secured. Let me put a little bit more right there, just in case. But all of those are in. Those aren't going to, there's no way for those to come out. So there we go. That part's done on the hull there. So that looks pretty good, and got a little bit of hot glue right here on the hull, but you can just scrape it right off, and there it goes. So there we go. Now let's move on to the next part. Okay, the next part I need to put in is this part right here. Now it's corresponding on the other side of the hull, this one right here, which is parts 53 and 54, and they come on this little sprue right here. And look like this. I've already cut off 53, which looks like this, and I need to trim off the pieces on here, and then these will go into these sections right here to help support the pylons. So the next step will be to get those in, and those I'm going to use regular cement glue to actually put those on and get these locked in place where there's no chance of them moving or anything, so they're good and solid, and they'll support those pylons really well. I'm going to just sand down the tabs after I cut them off the sprue part, just to make sure everything's nice and smooth from those mounting points. And that should work out pretty good. Now let me take this part and show you that this goes into the hull part just like that, and will provide a receiver stop for the nacelle, which slides into this part on the kit. So the thing to do will be to go ahead and glue in these pieces on both sides, and to glue those in I am going to use old-fashioned modeling glue, which is the testers. Now I know some people would probably say, oh, that's for amateurs and people don't know what they're doing, it's cheap stuff, it doesn't work very good. But I will come back and say that's a load of baloney. This glue welds the parts together, and it will physically melt the plastic on these locations after I scrape this paint off right here. Make sure you remove any paint that you have, because that will interfere with the glue melting the plastic and locking them together, welding them together properly. But once you put that on there and you put this in and you let that set, that's going to be a permanent bond that's going to be very, very, very strong. Yeah, you could go in and use epoxy, and you can do other stuff if you wanted to, but it's not really going to make that much of a difference. This stuff works really good. I highly recommend it for most things, although I do use CA for certain things, and I won't get into that argument about whether or not CA is any good for models or not. I know some modelers like Simon Merck uses CA a lot, others don't. It's just an issue of personal preference. But on joints like this, any structural joints, you really need to use a welding glue to melt the plastic, weld them together. It makes it for a very, very strong bond. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one glued in and the other one, and then we'll move on to the next item, and that is putting the lights into these hull pieces. Okay, that one's now glued in, and this one just got put in. I had a little over glue that came out, but in this case you can't put too much glue on here if it leaks out the joint, because these are so tight. Just wipe it down a little bit or leave it there and scrape it off later, or if you even care. But it's very, very important to get a lot of glue on these parts. As you can see from this diagram, you're supposed to get glue all over the side of these pieces, so that when you slide this in, you have a huge area of bonding, and that's very important to keep your nacelles stable and keep them from moving or anything, and they're nice and going to be nice and firm on the model and solid, which is a problem that's plagued all the other TOS kits from AMT before, where you just didn't have really stable pylons that would droop and everything. This type of connection is very strong. Put a lot of glue, get that to set up really well there. Don't over glue it, you don't want to just fill in everything, but put a decent amount of glue, cover all the shaded parts when that sets up, and make sure it's bonded really well before you start messing with the part. It's fully dry after you put it in, and it will help give you a very strong bond for your nacelles for your secondary hull. Well, I almost forgot to put on these parts that go on the outside, part 19 and part 20. And of course I could have done this later, but these are the parts, what they look like. And they're the little grilled part that was on the ship, and it goes right there. So what I've done is I scraped the Tamiya paint off right here, so I can get a good bonding surface. And I've trimmed these up and sanded them down from the sprue mounting points on them. And these, I had these pre-painted from before, so I'll just glue those in, and those will be right there. Look quite nice, so I'm going to get those two glued in, and we'll move on. Well, let's have a little recap of the lighting kit that Polar Lights has available that I bought to do this. And I guess before I get too much into that, I should say that I bought this kit, some of you know, as I've said previously in other build videos, the model and the lighting kit with the intention of trying to build this model just like the lighting kit and model kit instructions said. The model kit instructions are excellent. The lighting kit instructions are very good. I intended to use all the parts, but as I've been going through this, like on the saucer build, and using these connectors that you're supposed to use on this LED tape to connect these guys together, I pretty much discovered that these things can have a tendency to come apart relatively easily, and if that happens, you're not going to have very good connections, and they could come loose, especially if you're moving the model. Now, on the saucer, I put these in, and I used the low temp hot glue to lock them in place so they couldn't come open. And in general, that worked out really well. But messing with these connectors, some of these connectors go on and they make contact and they work really good right off the bat. Other times they don't seem to work as good. So I pretty much decided that I'm going to cut these connectors off, and I'm just going to solder these on for the remaining lights inside the engineering hall. So I can just get this done and I don't have to worry about these coming loose. And I think that'll probably be the best thing to do. I know a good friend of mine on Sci-Fi Model Action, Mr. TOS, Adam, he did away with these completely and soldered everything together, and he also took them out of being serial connections and put them into parallel. I'm going to keep the serial connections for this build, but I am going to go ahead and solder these connections onto the LED tape so I don't have to worry about these potentially coming loose. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these connectors off and go ahead and solder these on, and I'll show you the build up, because each side of the kit, the hull parts, get three, according to the instructions, get three of these tabs of LEDs, these sections of LED, one here, one here, and one back here on these little molded pads that they have. And then I'm going to see if that's going to really be enough light to light everything evenly. I may come back in and add some more. Okay, I've got these soldered up, the three that I need for the starboard side, and obviously they're working quite nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in the hull, and then I'll do the port side and put the hull together and just see if these are going to provide enough general lighting. I mean, they look really bright on camera, but the real test is going to be, is it going to be enough when I get them inside the hull in terms of lighting up the windows all nicely. Well, there's what they look like installed in the hull. I've gone ahead and peeled off the tape backing, on the 3M adhesive tape that's on the LED tape, stuck them in place, and then I came back in and used a little low temp hot glue and glued things in, put some tabs of glue around the strips, glued down the wires, so everything would be nice and down and nice and neat. And there's the lighting on the starboard side for that. So now I'll go ahead and do the lighting for the other side. Well, there it is. I just finished the other side and port side on lighting, and decided to snap the hulls together. And as you can see, the round 2's recommended placement of the light strips is actually really good, because the lights are all pretty bright. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, when I get back here and put the Shuttle Bay in, obviously the lighting is not going to be as good back here because of the Shuttle Bay, and I'm going to have to make some adjustments for that. So, but back here, look at it on the opposite side, on the starboard side, and that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Overall, that's not bad at all.
So the next thing up will be to actually do the shuttle bay, and I don't remember if I had shown that in the prior video build or not, but I believe I did. I wasn't happy with the lighting back there, so what I went and did was I replaced almost all the kit lights with SMDs, pre-wired SMDs that I have of the same general color temperature that comes with the LEDs in the kit, and I have wired them up in the locations to provide the general lighting. And so far I've kept the rectangular LED right here. I may replace that. I have the two 3mm flatheads right here. I may replace those. I haven't decided yet. Need to make a decision about that. I replaced the flood underneath with an SMD. So I'm going to put this in and see how it's lighting up in relation to the other lights and what adjustments I need to make. If I need to add more SMDs, remove some of the other stuff. Because I definitely want this to fit well, and I know a lot of people have been having problems getting the shuttle bay in and getting it to fit and close up the top of this hull properly. So that's the next step, and hopefully it'll come together without any problem, but we'll see. I'll show you that in just a minute. Alright, the next thing to do is to install the ion blink lights, which go back here underneath the shuttle bay on the port and starboard side, and those are labeled on the kit as light P, which plugged into one of the two ports right here on the board that goes in the engineering hall, and they just go right down into the little plastic sleeve that's in there that has a pin on the end of it that sticks out on the other side. So I'm going to install those, and then we'll be moving on to the next item. Well, I've got that all wired up now. Ion pods are in place and blinking. So I'm happy with that. So the next thing to do is to get the shuttle bay, and as I did before in one of the other build videos, I believe I went ahead and showed the replacement of these with the SMDs, so I'm going to go ahead and light this up and see if I'm going to need to add any more light to this. Okay, as you know, I've replaced the lighting back here at the back that came in the kit with these big wires, these 3mm flathead warm LEDs, well, I'm sorry, round-headed LEDs with SMDs. But this cabling here that's lighting up the LED here, it's corresponding one on the other side, and this flat LED that came in the kit is awfully big, and it's bumping right up against the hull top. And I'm concerned about closing this, so what I think I'm going to do is remove this and replace this wiring. Go ahead and probably use these LEDs, but replace this wiring with magnet wire so it's a lot thinner, and I can put it down in the trenches and it's not raised up above these, and will just be a cleaner and neater installation. And then I'm going to cut all these leads for the SMDs down to where they're all coming to about right here, and connect back on single wires going over, so I don't have all this extra wiring here that I don't need. So that's going to be the next thing, so I can get this in there without any problems, and see about what I need to do about getting the lighting down inside the shuttle bay the way I want it. Because right now it's a little dark, and I'm not well, it's actually not that dark, but the camera, I guess, is not compensating well, but I want to see what I can do about that. Okay, one of the things that I haven't been happy about with the kit is the lighting of these lights that are on the fantail. And with the kit light, it's very dim. So first thing I tried was one of the SMDs to see if that was going to be bright enough, and I still wasn't happy with that. So what I've got here is a 2mm LED that I've ground the lens completely off. And these are 18 or 19,000 millicandle in terms of their brightness. So what I'm going to do is install this to light up these fan tail lights. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up really well, but that's obviously a lot brighter. So that's what I'm going to use to light those up. So I'm going to install that, and that will go on the underside of the shuttle bay right here. So I'll mount it probably somewhere right in this area. I need to see exactly where, and that'll light up those colored pieces as the fan tail lights underneath the shuttle bay. Okay, there's the LED I've installed, and it is facing forward to where those lights will be. And let me light it up. And as you can see, it's quite bright. The beam angle's good, so that should work out really well to light that up. Can't see it through the hole of the shuttle bay, so the light blocking is doing perfect, so that should fix that problem. So now the next thing to do is to look about putting this in the hull and see if we need to make any alterations to these little SMDs right here and see how the hull fits together. Well, this video is starting to get a little long, so I think I'll go ahead and end it and catch up with everybody next time, where we'll finish the issue of getting the shuttle bay mounted in, and probably see about getting ready to close the engineering hull up, and we'll be taking care of the pylons, I think probably in the next video. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and happy modeling, everyone.